On this Sunday night, protesting a birthday party. The counter-concert and No Kings protests.
We are losing our democracy.
As the U.S. president celebrates his 80th birthday with a cage match at the White House. As Canada's prime minister wraps up a trip to Ireland.
We are not satisfied with the status quo.
Protests ahead of the G7 summit in France. British military forces seize a sanctioned Russian oil tanker. The message to Vladimir Putin. And World Cup jubilation in Vancouver.
Got a lot of money to watch it. It was all worth it.
And mayhem in New York City with a long-awaited NBA championship win.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Colleen Christie.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with breaking news out of Washington. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the U.S. has reached a ceasefire agreement with Iran. Trump made the announcement on social media, saying the deal is now complete and that he has authorized the opening of the Strait of Hormuz and the immediate removal of the U.S. naval blockade. Few details of the agreement have been released, and there has been no immediate confirmation from Iran. The news comes hours after Israel delivered deadly strikes in Beirut, threatening to derail negotiations. Israel claims it targeted Hezbollah infrastructure in Lebanon's capital after accusing the Iran-backed militant group of firing into northern Israel. President Trump called on all sides to de-escalate following the strikes that left at least 3 people dead and 16 others injured. The U.S. president is marking his 80th birthday today with a UFC fight on the front lawn of the White House. But as the fight kicks off, celebrations of a different kind are happening across the U.S. and in Europe called Rise Up, Sing Out, a concert for the First Amendment. Candace Cole has more on the plans to spoil the president's birthday party.
As U.S. President Donald Trump becomes the country's second octogenarian in the Oval Office, not everyone is on board with his plans to celebrate with a UFC fighting match on the White House lawn.
Kind of feels wrong inherently right now.
I don't like it. I feel like just overall it's very gaudy.
I'm sick and tired of hearing about the weather now and all the other surrounding this event. We are fighting on Sunday night on the White House lawn, no matter what.
As Trump's circus-like spectacle in Washington gets underway, masses of people are gathering across the U.S. and parts of Europe for a concert celebrating the tenets of the First Amendment: freedom of speech, religion, the right to peacefully protest, and freedom of the press.
This is not the America I was told existed. I was told we are the people.
Longtime activist and actor Jane Fonda heads up the Committee for the First Amendment and is leading the effort behind the concert, along with No Kings and Indivisible, a grassroots organization.
Music has always been married to resistance. All across the country, there are people who have registered to view it, viewing parties, and they get song sheets, so it'll be sing-along. And calls to action.
Over 300 watch parties are being held for the concert, with a lineup including Canadian musician Rufus Wainwright, former MSNBC host Joy Reid, actors Julia Roberts and Lily Gladstone, and triple threat performer Bette Midler.
You're bound to lose, you fascist bound to lose.
Sunday's concert is a direct affront to Trump, who in the first 18 months of his second term saw tens of thousands of federal workers fired, cut critical aid to developing countries, and has been tied to the ouster of late-night show host and Trump critic Stephen Colbert.
We are losing our democracy. The guardrails are going. Our First Amendment rights are being taken away in every direction. Without the First Amendment, we can't exist, so we decided to once again fight back.
As Trump celebrates, others are using their voices to fight back, as the president's approval rating hovers around 39%, according to the latest polling. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell has been admitted to hospital. His spokesperson didn't say why, but says the Republican lawmaker is receiving excellent care. Neighbors say he was loaded into an ambulance on a stretcher this morning. The 84-year-old former Senate Majority Leader was hospitalized for 8 days in February for flu-like symptoms. Anti-G7 protests turned violent in Geneva today, just hours before world leaders are set to gather across the border in France. Protesters clashed with police, set a car on fire, and smashed the windows of a bank as thousands marched against the annual G7 summit. The demonstration took place in Geneva because France declined to issue permits for protests near the French resort town of Avion, the host of this year's gathering. President Trump and G7 allies are set to confront trade tensions, the war in Ukraine and the Middle East, and Iran's nuclear program, among other topics at this year's summit, which begins tomorrow. Canada's Prime Minister will also be there. Today, Mark Carney wrapped up his visit to Ireland with a more personal itinerary. Gillian Piper reports.
The small Irish village of Ahagower is buzzing, with residents young and old, all hoping for the chance to meet a world leader with local ties.
For my little son to meet him too, or to see him, it's just an exciting day in the west of Ireland.
This is all for you.
The Prime Minister attending Sunday Mass in the village where his grandparents lived before immigrating to Canada in 1925.
We hope this is going to put us on the map, be it like Obama going to Montreal or JFK going to New Ross.
This local shop owner honoring the special occasion with Mark's Maple Sundaes.
Maple syrup and a real Irish treat on top.
But no one could quite match the excitement of Carney's Irish relatives.
We're extremely proud of our second cousin, that he's taken the time out of a very busy schedule to come here to Ahagower to meet his family.
Those family ties also prompting reflection as the Prime Minister visited the graves of his great-grandparents.
Obviously, this is a personal aspect of this visit, which is very touching for me and powerful for me.
I hope he has a wonderful journey to his ancestral homeland.
Those well wishes not stopping the opposition leader from urging Carney to deliver more tangible results on his 9th trip to Europe in 15 months.
We've had free trade with Europe for over a decade, no thanks to Mark Carney.
Criticism the Prime Minister dismissed.
We are not satisfied with the status quo. Maybe the leader of the opposition is, but we're not satisfied with the status quo.
Carney will likely face a less friendly atmosphere at the G7 summit on Monday, with senior Canadian officials expecting disagreement amongst leaders on key issues, including artificial intelligence regulation. Colleen?
Gillian Piper in Westport, Ireland. Thanks, Gillian. A solemn procession was held today for a Toronto police officer shot to death on Thursday. Officers lined the streets as Constable Mark Pinizotto's body was taken from the coroner's office to a funeral home. Pinizotto was killed in an exchange of gunfire while executing a search warrant tied to several Toronto shootings. A 19-year-old suspect has been charged with first-degree murder. In Montreal, city leaders are vowing to rebuild trust after the suspensions and reassignments of 16 officers over allegations of racism. The officers learned their punishment on Friday night. As Elizabeth Zagalis reports, the fallout for police will continue in the days to come.
During her first public comments since the allegations emerged late Friday night, Montreal-North Mayor Christine Black became emotional.
Il y a beaucoup de frustration. Puis je le comprends.
There are a lot of frustrations, and I understand. We work so hard to improve relations between residents and police, and it feels like we're going backwards. Adding, it's difficult and discouraging for the population.
Puis ça, c'est très difficile pour la population. C'est très décourageant.
Her comments come after an entire night patrol unit comprising 16 officers at Station 39 in the city's North End was completely dismantled on Friday amid serious racial profiling and discrimination allegations, including reports some officers may have cut off dreadlocks to keep as some sort of trophy. City officials are expecting the coming weeks will be difficult as they work with the community to rebuild trust.
We need to listen to what these organizations live through every single day.
Organizations and community members in Montreal-North have long raised concerns about police street checks and racial profiling.
If we're not talking about redistributing resources or withdrawing powers that the police use in racially disproportionate and abusive ways, then we are saying that what happened and what was revealed in this story is perfectly fine.
Concordia University researcher Ted Rutland says recent studies show street checks often are a result of an abuse of power.
We could easily withdraw that power, which is very much implicated in this case, and it would improve public security and it would reduce racial profiling.
A demonstration is scheduled to take place Monday evening in front of Station 39. Officials are calling for calm and a peaceful protest. Elizabeth Zogalis, Global News, Montreal.
When military members retire, they're often entitled to one final relocation called the last move with financial compensation. But a 20-year Canadian Armed Forces veteran says the military has rejected his moving claim. Heidi Petracek explains why the Department of National Defence won't reconsider his case even after admitting to a gap in the process.
This is not just a handout. I earned this.
Retired Canadian Armed Forces Sergeant Alexandre Robin is moving from Nova Scotia to British Columbia. The tens of thousands of dollars that will cost him should normally be covered by the armed forces, but not for him.
The reason the CAF denied my benefit is because I did not request an extension on the third year.
That's one of a series of deadlines set out in the Canadian Armed Forces 154-page relocation directive, but Robin insists he wasn't briefed on them during his medical release in April 2022. He was very sick at the time with yet undiagnosed PTSD, too sick to move right away. Robin was a medical technician who'd been deployed in Afghanistan.
Everyone that served knows the cost.
The Chief of the Defense Staff can approve an extension under compelling circumstances. The Department of National Defense wouldn't speak directly to Robin's case, but says in a statement Treasury Board policies tie the force's hands once the maximum eligibility window closes. No exceptions. One veterans advocate says that's not good enough.
We need to do the right thing by this veteran here and his family. And the Minister of Defense can do it if he really wanted to.
A February email from the Office of the Chief of the Defense Staff acknowledges the release form used in 2022 did not explicitly state the expiry date for the relocation benefit extension. The department says it is changing its release forms to close that information gap.
Things have been corrected, but they were not willing to revert the decision.
Well, I think they should be retroactive in their correctiveness and be able to allow him the benefit that he deserves.
Robin intends to take his case to federal court at personal cost.
I used to be in BC and I was happier and personally in BC.
He's already dipping into savings for a move he says he needs for his mental health. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Beaverbank, Nova Scotia.
Interception in the English Channel. Coming up, how British forces captured a sanctioned Russian shadow fleet oil tanker. In Ukraine, a child is among 6 people injured in Kharkiv after a Russian drone attack on the city's art museum. The strike engulfed the building in flames. Officials say several paintings were also destroyed. It comes as U.S. President Donald Trump had separate phone calls with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts, urging both sides to end the conflict that has now lasted longer than the First World War. The UK says it has intercepted a Russian oil tanker trying to pass through the English Channel. It's part of Russia's shadow fleet used to avoid sanctions tied to its war in Ukraine. While it's the first such seizure by British forces, the UK Prime Minister says it won't be the last. Vincent McAviney reports.
British Royal Marine Commandos and specially trained National Crime Agency officers dropping down from Chinook helicopters and onto the deck of a sanctioned Russian Shadow Fleet oil tanker. In an operation lasting 6 hours, they searched and secured the vessel with support from Royal Air Force planes and helicopters, as well as Royal Navy vessels. The ship, sailing under a Cameroonian flag, is part of Russia's so-called shadow fleet of more than 700 vessels, which carry oil and gas to help fund President Putin's war in Ukraine. Prime Minister Keir Starmer signalled in March he would engage in these kind of operations, its commander suggesting Sundays won't be the last.
Well, I think that message is the same as what our allies have been communicating, and indeed what the UK government has been communicating, that evading sanctions to fund an illegal war in Ukraine will be countered with decisive action.
The UK government says the operation was in line with both domestic and international law. While Britain has previously assisted allies such as France and the United States in similar interceptions, this is the first time it has led one, despite being a firm backer of Ukraine. Prime Minister Keir Starmer hopes this action will send a strong message to President Putin that the UK will enforce its sanctions. At least 3 other Russian Shadow Fleet tankers have reportedly abandoned passage through the English Channel. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
Ahead, the growing resistance to visitors in what many call an over-touristed Europe.
It's the place to be in the morning. Watch The Morning Show with Carolyn McKenzie and Jeff MacArthur, weekdays on Global.
While the Canadian boycott of travel to the U.S. has been softening in recent months, Europe is still a prime summer vacation destination. But with complaints of over-tourism by European residents and governments, measures are being introduced to dissuade the throngs. Turia Isri reports.
Sagrada Familia is one of the world's most visited churches, and it's both a blessing and a curse.
Breathless, overwhelmed, quite like nothing I've ever felt before inside of another building.
Arguably, its most high-profile visitor, Pope Leo, came just a few days ago, as the basilica nears completion and finds itself at the center of a battle for Barcelona's soul. Anti-tourism protests are a fixture outside the church, fueled by rising rents and overcrowded neighborhoods.
Now, tourism is in a very funny spot. It is advancing enormously through technology. You know, we often refer to the one-click trip.
The mayor of Athens recently warned his city can't become Barcelona. The ancient capital has stopped issuing permits for short-term rentals in the downtown core and could soon put hotel development on hold. In neighboring Italy, the Amalfi Coast is also inundated.
Si crea proprio perché
it's the hit-and-run tourism causing the problem, he says. Visitors who ferry in for a couple of hours, take a few selfies, and leave. The European Union has released new guidelines to curb the problem, including promoting destinations off the beaten path.
We're starting to see more of a trend towards second city tourism. Instead of going to Rome, go to Palermo.
But most European cities are going the taxation route. Barcelona has doubled its tourist levy. Amsterdam has raised its tax again. Paris is adding an extra 10 euros a night to some hotel stays. And Venice has started charging a day trip fee.
I find it distressing that the rich people should have the right to go to Venice. Poor people shouldn't. That's garbage.
Despite the growing frustration, tourism is vital to Europe's economy, accounting for roughly 10% of its GDP. And Canada is a major customer. Roughly 7 million Canadians travel to the continent each year. Turia Isri, Global News, Montreal.
Switzerland has voted against a proposal to cap its population at 10 million. Preliminary results from a nationwide referendum show almost 55% of voters oppose the proposal. The vote was put forward by the populist Swiss People's Party and would have stipulated that the population, which is currently 9.1 million, not exceed 10 million before 2050. The referendum was dubbed the Swiss Brexit because of the potential to threaten the country's ties with the European Union and damage the economy. How Australia celebrates a win at the World Cup in Vancouver, and how New York City celebrates the NBA championship. Next. Tens of thousands of New York Knicks fans flooded the streets after their team won their first NBA championship in more than 50 years. But the party atmosphere quickly turned rowdy. A bus was set on fire and a teenager suffered gunshot wounds. Authorities say 63 people were arrested during celebrations. New York will hold a championship parade for the Knicks on Thursday. Australia fans celebrated long into the night in Vancouver after their team won 2-0 against Turkey at BC Place. More than 52,000 fans packed the stadium for the city's first of 7 World Cup matches. Team Canada will be in action in Vancouver on Thursday when they take on Qatar. Canada Post has rolled out a colorful new series of stamps in honor of Pride Month. They honor places and events pivotal to the country's gay rights movement, including a little bookstore in BC that took its fight for equal rights all the way to the Supreme Court. Sarah McDonald reports.
If you're not looking for little sisters,
you might not find it.
What started out as a bookstore created a movement, and that movement still lives and breathes today.
The iconic Vancouver bookstore, now owned by Parmjot Gill, was once the focal point of a landmark federal fight over charter rights after Customs Canada blocked shipments to the store.
These books have been seized by Customs and banned entry into the country.
So are you breaking the law by holding them here?
The years-long fight went all the way to the country's Supreme Court, which ultimately sided with its original owners.
They established a precedent in the law that says that governments can't do this. The reason that Little Sisters is important on a national level is that they won that case.
Decades later, Little Sisters is back in the national spotlight in a whole new way, recognized by Canada Post with its own stamp. For historian Glenn Tkach, it's a full circle moment.
We've come a long ways in a short time, but it also signifies how recent and therefore how fragile these freedoms and protections are.
800,000 of the stamps are now in circulation from here in BC to Atlantic Canada. The turret in Halifax also given a nod, along with the 519 in Toronto and the Metamorphosis Festival of 1978 in Saskatoon.
Every last detail on those stamps is meaningful and authentic.
We're bringing history to the forefront.
For longtime Little Sisters employee Aurora Jones, the recognition goes far deeper than the stamp itself.
Having a government institution recognize us after past same government branches basically targeting us, it feels very full circle, and it feels very good that we're moving forward.
These colorful symbols of collective progress now also on the move to a mailbox near you. Sarah McDonald, Global News, Vancouver.
Happy Pride. That's Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Colleen Christie. Tonight's Your Canada is just outside Tramping Lake, Saskatchewan. Thanks for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a good night.